Hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome TikTok, welcome YouTube. Hello. Today we're going to talk about abandonment traumas. The other day, me and my sister were talking about somebody, and I was thinking, how come I never uncover abandonment traumas, especially because almost everybody has them. So I decided to fix it and today about these issues that almost everybody actually has. Now, um, also it's a good time to talk about it because we have Mercury retrograde, so we're kind of fixing the issues from the past. And also it's a good time because Venus moved to Virgo, so we kind of want to work on our health, on our emotional health, physical health, and it's always a good time to kind of address any kind of issues that you might have. All right. What is an abandonment trauma and why people would have them? So, yeah, it is especially interesting how some people say, "I don't have any traumas. I don't have any kind of issues. I'm from a good family, and I'm just a happy person." But I can almost pinpoint when a person has an abandonment trauma. Usually, they're usually it's seen from how the person behaves. If a person is trying to please everybody, if a person is afraid to lose somebody, if a person is not like thinking about others more than about himself or herself, that's all fear of abandonment. It is some kind of traumas. Also, when a person could not have a healthy relationship with the man or with the woman, and with friends, with the family, that's also an issue. When they have trust issues, when they have frequent depressions, anxieties, these are all like symptoms that the person has abandonment trauma. Also, they have usually these people are afraid to express their emotions or overzealous in expressing their emotions, which is also hard for them to kind of to control. They also have difficulties in attaching to people. So either they are all in, or they're like kind of afraid to let people in their life, and these are all symptoms. So when I see somebody like this, I already know that they have an abandonment trauma, and it doesn't matter whether they're from a very a really good family with no issues. They still might have the traumas. And to tell you the truth, I even read an article once that over 90% people have these traumas now, and we just learn to kind of to live with them. But I would want us to heal, so we all can just move on with life and basically learn how to build the relationship with everybody around us and enjoy. The thing is that when you have abandonment trauma, usually you're like a cripple. You constantly need something to hold you. You don't feel very secure and grounded in your life, in your position, in your status. You constantly need something to lean on, and you obviously don't want. Yeah, you can live like this, but wouldn't you rather live happy and fulfilled, kind of without needing to lean on something? Now, you can pinpoint whether you have abandonment trauma or not, especially if you're an adult and you are feeling somewhat lonely. Even if you have a relationship, you have friends, you have your family, relatives, you have this bunch of people around you, and you still feel lonely. This is like a huge indicator that you might have this trauma. Also, you don't feel worthy. That's also like a good indicator. No matter what you do, you still are trying kind of to prove to yourself and to everybody else that you're worthy of something. And usually you start noticing particular patterns in the relationship that are not very fulfilling and happy. These are usually they're already long-term patterns, long-term problems that are appearing in your life and in everybody else's life. Sorry for that. I unplugged the computer and the charger dropped. All right. So these are the long-term impact of the trauma. Now, where the trauma comes from. Before I'll tell you where the trauma comes from, I'll tell you that different people um, have different triggers when they have abandonment trauma. And for example, uh, I also had this trauma, and thanks God that I was able to heal it, and I have no problems with the trauma any longer. Like I don't even have triggers when it comes to any kind of abandonment issues now. But I will give you a few examples, and maybe you will be able to pinpoint which ones um, um, concern you, so to say. For example, it doesn't. Some people are becoming nervous, becoming anxious when a person leaves their side. So, for example, you have a boyfriend and he just like, okay, I have to go, and you start to worry. What if he will never appear again? What if he will never come to your, to you again? You getting anxious. As long as the person is next to you, you feel fine. But as soon as the person leaves your side, you start getting nervous. Another one could be when a person becomes emotional distant, and you start worried, um, you start getting kind of anxious, maybe even depressed when the person is next to you, but emotional distant. So, for example, you need a constant check-in, you need somebody to talk to you all the time. um, and this is basically also trauma. For example, I will tell you what kind of trauma I had. I grew up in a full family, obviously, and my parents, they didn't travel much. I mean, we always travel together. So if we travel together. If we go somewhere, we go together. My parents had 9 to 5 kind of jobs, so every evening they were home. I always knew whether they live or if they are not right now home at night, they will be home. Now, but my parents were energy of air, and because they are energy of air, they were a little distant. I mean, they were pretty social. They have their own kind of projects, events. They had their life going on. So we as a children were not like we were their priority, but they wouldn't be constantly paying attention to us. They had their own life. And I remember when that it bothered me when my parents would be distant. I knew that something is off, especially with my mom. I knew if my mom is distant, size 8. Somebody's asking what is my ring size. So if when I knew that if my mom is distant, then something is off, and probably she's displeased with something or something like that. So when I grew up, the same issue I started noticing in my life. I wouldn't mind when somebody goes somewhere. I wouldn't mind if they have something to do. I always knew that if a person leaves my side, they will always come back. I had no issues with that. On the other hand, if I'm sitting with the person and suddenly the person becomes distant, suddenly that person becomes a little bit off, a little like maybe a little angry. I always thought that something is going on, that it would be that I need to please the person as so they wouldn't be angry. And this was my abandonment trauma. I was afraid to disappoint the person that I love, and I was afraid that that disappointment would lead to for them to leave me. Kind of. Now, I had a client. She had an issue with somebody leaving. So her parents, her mom, was traveling a lot for her work, and she was always afraid that she would not come back. I'm not sure. So um, she started having issues in relationship with man. Like her only request for a man was that he would always come home every night. So there won't be no trips just by himself. There won't be no work trips. Like it was her demand that he will always be. They always will spend the night with her, kind of like that. Traumas are different, abandonment traumas, but they all have the same root, and the root is that a small child at one point got scared that the parent will disappear forever. So when we're born, when the child is born, the child is depending on the parents. I mean, parents is all he sees, kind of, or she, and the parents are feeding the child, supporting the child, and the child and the child's mind understands that without the parent, it won't be able to survive. So I honestly, the child doesn't really care much for the parents. The child cares for its own survival. And when a child, when it doesn't, um, when the parent is gone for for a long time, the child start worried, and worried to the point that it becomes a very strong trauma. The child is start to expect that it will be repeated. For example, let's imagine that there is a child. The child is 4 years old, and the child always spends time with the mother or with the father. And one day, the child is taking a nap, and wakes up, and there is nobody. So she's calling mom, dad. She's trying to get attention. There is nobody. And a couple hours pass, and she's all by herself. She's scared. She's not sure what's going on. And then the mom comes. So maybe the mom went to the store while the child is asleep. I mean, I know that these days it doesn't happen, but when I was little, it did happen a lot. But the child was so traumatized that the parent was not there, and she spent 2 hours without crying and calling for the mom or for father, whoever. That in her mind, it became a really strong. So every time the mom would leave, or every time she goes to take a nap, her mind will be very cautious. What if she will wake up and there won't be the parent again? And this is how the trauma starts. Usually, this trauma, abandonment trauma, appears at the age of 4, 5. So it couldn't start when the child is too small, like around 2. It's very rarely because the child is too small. It could not comprehend. Yeah, the child will lay there and shout and scream, but he or she will not understand that they need the parent to kind of for their survival. They will just be screaming for just because. Now, it also will not happen when the child is already like 8, 9. It happens earlier because at 8, 9, the child already has the clear picture of the world around him or her. So they understand that the mom loves her and she will not leave her, that she needs to go somewhere, but she will be back. Now, when the child is 3, 4, 5, the child does not exactly understand. Yeah, the mom could say, "I will be back," but the child at that moment is not really yet comprehending the reality that much. So if uh, if she will at one point realize, okay, where is the mom, the girl will not think, well, mom said she will be back in a couple hours, so I just need to sit and think. You see, a child that is 7, 8 years old already will understand that she needs to wait for the mom. The child that is 4, 5 will not be able to understand this, to grasp it. So basically, it is like this. Now, it always starts at 4, 5. How can it start? So it could be very rarely. It happens when the child loses the parents. Could happen, but it's not. I mean, thankfully, it doesn't happen that often. So when the child loses the parents, then starts like maybe get adopted and start going from one foster home to another, or maybe just been in one foster home. The trauma is real. But for the most part, it happens like this. A child is sent to the kindergarten at the age of 5, and it's very traumatic effect on the child because the child was never separated from parents before. Me, for example, me, my brother, and my sister, we all went to pre-K, I think, or kindergarten. I'm not sure. So we went very early. We were a year and a half when we started attending this facility. So I was used. Yeah, I didn't like going there, but I was used to be separated from my parents since morning till like early afternoon. It was normal. By the time I started comprehending the reality, it was already part of my reality. Like it was my normal reality. I would basically every morning we had to we had to go to kindergarten, and when in the afternoon my mom and my father would pick us up, or if they couldn't, maybe our grandparents. But I always knew it was always in my life. It was never like it was not like it never happened. It was always there. um, but so it wasn't. On the other hand, I know people that went to kindergarten when they were 4 or 5, and for them it was a traumatic event, because they would be spending. I even had a friend. Her mom was um, she was stay-at-home mom until the daughter was like 4 years old. And when the girl was 4 years old, she basically put her in kindergarten, and she got herself a part-time job. And for the girl, it was a huge trauma. Why? Because she spent the first 4 years with the mom, basically inseparable, because she always was, mom was always at home, and if she would go somewhere, she would take the daughter with her. So they were together all the time. And then one day, basically, her mom took her to the kindergarten and left her there for the whole whatever day, or I'm not sure how many hours. And till now, she was 4 years old. Till now, she remembers, and till now, it hurts her. She's afraid like this, like to the point that she even she realizes this, and she speaks about it often. And she says, if I'm going with my husband to the mall, and he tells her, I will leave you here and I will come back like in 3 hours to pick you up, she gets a little nervous. Like she get this lump in her chest. She's afraid that he will not come in 3 hours. And she does work. I even work with her a little bit. She understands all this, but she wouldn't let the trauma go. I'm not sure why. I think she just likes to have it in her life. So for children that were separated from parents around 4 or 5, this is what happened to them. It is very traumatic to be separated from somebody. They're afraid that the person will just leave them and won't come back. How else could it be? It could be also emotional distance. For example, as I said, like my parents, they were very preoccupied. They have their own social life. I mean, they were always there, but they were often emotionally, like in the evening after dinner, we could be all together in one room. But everybody's, and it was long before the cell phones or computers were even in, but everybody was still kind of in their own world. My father loved to read. My mom was kind of doing her own stuff, and then and we as kids were just basically on our own. So when a parent is emotionally distant, the child also gets a huge trauma, even if there are no really indicators. For example, nobody, like as I said, if like me, I grew up in a full family, in a loving family, but still my parents were not very emotionally available. For example, if I would start to cry, they wouldn't just hug me and say, "Oh, Anastasia, I love you. It's okay. Don't cry." They would be like, "Mom, okay, it happens. It's fine," like this. So they would be emotional distant, and this emotional distance created somewhat trauma in me. Again, I was able to cope with you, and you will be as well. There are also parents that are basically never pay attention to their kids. Thankfully, that was not my my issue. But I know families like this where parents are so preoccupied. I even have a friend who has a child, and I tell her it would really hurt your kid at one point. Like when she travels, she moves around. Basically, her child spends more time with the grandparents than with parents. On the other hand, the grandparents are very close to the child, so who knows? It will be it will be seen. Um, another reason that could cause such trauma could be a loss, like a real loss, like one of the parents would die. Again, it has to happen in this time period from 4 to 5, and thankfully that doesn't happen as often. But again, it's not before 4 and it's not after 4. It has to be somewhere in that period of time when you always have, for example, one of the parents get divorced and one of the parents just disappears completely. So this could be also a reason like that. Another reason could be especially if you are a people's pleaser, could be like an emotional rejection. I'll explain. For example, you had a fight with another kid, let's say with a neighboring kid, and your mom, instead of taking your side, took the side of the kid. So she tells you, how dare you to hit that kid? Go and apologize. This is a somewhat emotional betrayal, emotional um, rejection. So the mom, instead of taking your side, or at least explaining you, listen, it's not good to kind of to fight with other kids. She basically takes the other side, and from then on, you start pleasing the people around you. You don't want them to be disappointed in you. You don't want them to choose another person over you. If you are a people's pleaser, this is your issue. Probably something like that happened. And I remember in the society where I was brought up, opinions of others matter. So my parents really didn't care much about the opinions of others, but I do remember other parents that did care, and they were very hard on their kids if they would kind of put them down in front of other people. I remember that. I remember we had a neighbor, they had the only daughter. They obviously loved the daughter very much, but they were very hard on her. And she, till now, she has abandonment traumas. And it was not because they left her, because they were always in her face. I mean, they were always together. She was the only daughter, the daughter that they waited for so long. But because they tried to make this perfect version of her, they were often emotionally betraying her. Like there was nothing that would make her parents happy. For example, if she will go to school and she gets like straight A's and then one B, they would tell her, you know what? That other girl got all straight A. So they would always compare her. It was, I think it was very painful for her. I don't think they meant it like that. They just wanted her to be super perfect and they wanted to be proud of her, kind of like that. But again, she has a huge trauma, and she was, since I remember her, she was always a people's pleaser. She was so afraid to disappoint others and and uh, um, and to be rejected basically by others. So these are the reasons. We went over the reasons. Now we went over the symptoms. Now how to deal with that? I mean, obviously we're here to work um, with our with our abandonment trauma. I want to also mention that this is how people deal with that, right? Like, for example, my parents were emotionally distant. So I would not allow anybody into my life. I remember since I was a teenager, even when I was a little girl, I always loved when somebody touches me. But at one point, I shut myself down and I didn't want anybody to hug me. Everybody would tell, and my brother was the same. I'm not sure about my sister, um, but I remember. So it was my basically my defense mechanism. So if you prefer not to hug people, if you don't want them to touch you, this is it's a trauma. Another one is obviously people's pleasing. So this is something. This is how you defend yourself. Um, and you're constantly alert. You're waiting. You're afraid that somebody will betray you in some way or abandon you. I'm moving you to New Jersey. Look, no, maybe not to New Jersey. All right. So, what are the steps to deal with the abandonment trauma? Let's go over them. I was able to heal it. It's possible. It's just some people they enjoy to hang in the traumas. I had clients that wouldn't want to give up on the abandonment issues just because I'm not sure. It's I think they're so used to defend themselves and they're so used to living the trauma. Now, if you will tell me that no, my abandonment issues started when I was 12 or 13 or 14, when I had my first boyfriend, and when I was 15 and he left me, no, it always starts at the age of 4, 5, always, maybe 6 if your mind is not a fast developer, but it always happens in the same time. After that, your patterns are repeating. It always happens in the same time, always. There's no such thing. So if you, for example, you lost your favorite grandma when you were 15 years old and you believe that your abandonment issues are coming from that event, no, it's not from that event. That event is misfortunate, obviously, but it's not an abandonment trauma. You would probably, you might have, if it's your favorite grandma and everything, you might have the trauma, but it won't be an abandonment issue. Okay, so what are the steps? The steps are basically what you need to do, you will do all the steps. You need to prove yourself that you can live on your own. When you were a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, obviously you couldn't survive without your parents. You couldn't cater to yourself. You couldn't provide them. Um, you couldn't provide food for yourself. You couldn't provide kind of yourself shelter. But now you are 25 years old, 35 years old, 45 years old, whatever age you are, you can cater to yourself. Yeah, maybe without other people, you wouldn't live as a fulfilling life as you want, but you are able to cater to yourself. You will be fine. And all the steps that I will tell you right now to do are basically proving yourself that you will be fine on your own. Like, even if everybody leaves you, you're just by yourself in the whole world. Trust me, you will not be by yourself in the whole world. You will not. People will flock to you because you will remove this energetic pressure from you and the relationship. All right. So the first thing you need to do, you need to acknowledge that you have the trauma. You need to acknowledge the feelings. You need to understand that you are really, that you have this kind of issue. The problem with a lot of people, the problem with them to why couldn't they heal the trauma is because they couldn't admit. I remember I had a client, I still have her actually, and she always told me, no, my family was so perfect. I'm from a good, full family. My father, my mother, they love me. Like everything is perfect. Yet she couldn't have a relationship. She's afraid that the guy will betray her. And she could tell me this like every single day that everything perfect, and I tell her, well, then why don't you have a relationship? If you are from such a perfect family, you enjoyed yourself in your family, why don't you have a relationship? And she said, well, because you can't trust man, blah blah blah, this and this. Well, that's because you have an abandonment issue, because you're afraid that the man will leave you. And probably it was coming from past. So basically, you need to accept the pain, the triggers, everything that comes with this issue. You could not pretend that everything is good if everything is not really good, like that. Um, the second one is you need to stop blaming the parents. This is another thing. Once I explain my clients, okay, so you have the issue, you have this is what we need to work with, and they start, oh, my parents, this and this and this. There's no point in blaming the parents or anybody else. They give what they give, and that's it. Just accept it. I mean, you are alive. You are able to listen to me, and that's already more than enough. So stop blaming. Blaming anybody is being in a victim mentality. And a victim is never a winner. A victim is a victim. So if you want to be a winner, you need to stop with this stuff. Completely take the responsibility for your life and move on. I mean, it happened. Now you have the opportunity to solve it. Also, it's not necessarily your parents. Sometimes we start blaming the circumstances, the country, the life itself, the childhood. I mean, everything around. And this also doesn't work. No point in blaming anything or anybody. So stop with that. If you ever feel these feelings, oh, I wish I was born in a different family, I wish I was born in different times. All right, just there is no point. You need to stop with that right away. There is a reason why you were in this family with this particular parents in this particular childhood. There was a reason. You see, I hated going to kindergarten, and I was going there since I was a year and a half. But there was a reason why I had to kind of to learn how to build relationship with kids, with other kids. And at that time it was considered good for a child to develop with the other children. So the first step is recognize that you have the trauma. The second one is stop blaming anybody. Just take the responsibility. That's it. The third one is you need to start focusing on yourself. You don't need to. You see, when we have the abandonment trauma, we try to constantly please others. We're always in other people's kind of aura. We're always trying to, is he happy with me? Am I doing everything right? Maybe I should be more quiet, or maybe I should talk more, or maybe I should cook for him, or maybe I should not. Like constantly in other people's, because we're trying to make sure that the person is happy with us, so the person will not leave us or will not give us some kind of emotional distance or something like that. And this is not healthy. Obviously, it puts a lot of energetic pressure on us and on the people around us. So whether it's a friend, or whether it's a boyfriend, a husband, even kids, because patterns are repeating. So with kids, you will have the same pattern. If you are afraid to be abandoned, you will have the same fear even with your own kids, and you will manipulate them just so you will have your own kind of sense of security. With parents, with everybody. So you need to start focusing on yourself, but not only focusing on your life, but also developing, um, like allow yourself to feel, develop this self-love, self-compassion. Start listening to yourself and allowing yourself to express the feelings. It is important. You see, if we wouldn't, if I wouldn't give myself self-love and compassion and understanding, how can I expect it from others? For the most part, people with abandonment traumas, that's what they want. They want somebody to understand them and to accept them as they are. And this is what were expecting from our parents when we were little. Now, and when we didn't get it, we basically kind of proved to ourselves that we're not deserving of something as nice. So when we start giving ourselves self-love and self-compassion, when we start practicing it, we start we move the energy more like in our aura. We stop focusing on other people. It is much healthier. Trust me, it is much healthier. Nobody wants a constant servant around themselves. Everybody wants a self-sufficient person. You see, when I am focused on myself, and another person is focused on herself or himself, we benefit each other more than if she would be focused on herself and I would be focused on herself. It would be kind of weird, you know. I would not be able to give any value to my friend, or to my boyfriend, to my husband, or anybody, if I don't have it in me. It is important. All right, the fourth one is you need to develop, you need to have healthy boundaries. And I actually have 3 videos on boundaries, and what are the healthy soft boundaries. Please do watch it, because if you have abandonment traumas, chances are you have serious issues with boundaries. Usually people with abandonment issues have, either they have no boundaries at all and people can step all over them, or they have they have brick walls around them and they don't allow anybody else in. So if this video is important for you, like it really um, makes sense to you, do watch the videos about the boundaries. I will put them in the description for this video. um, the boundaries are important, and I will just in 2 words, the boundaries have to be soft. They couldn't be hard, and you could not have no boundaries at all. If you are a self-sufficient strong person, if you keep your energy in your aura, people will never overstep your boundaries. I know that. I know some people say you're intimidating. No, I'm a pleasant person. I welcome people into my life. I don't mind, but they know how far um, they can go within my space. And that's how you should feel. You should feel like welcoming to people. You don't mind people. You love people in your life. You love to experience people in your life. But you also know that they will respect your space and they will not do nothing silly. And you don't need to tell them. They will feel it. So this is about the boundaries. The boundaries are crucial. Another thing that you need to do, you need to find the event. This would be ideal, and rewrite the event. So for example, like that client of mine that I told you, her mom took her to the kindergarten when she was 4 years old or something, and till now she remembers that day, and she remembers how hurt she was, how she was calling and crying her mom, and her mom only came like in the afternoon. um, Not sure really why that happened. I mean, usually parents, like in the first couple days, they take them in couple, but anyways, it happened, right? So she had that event, and that event really triggers her whole life. So the whole life she's basically having this issue. She needs to go back to that day when she was put in that kindergarten and her mom left, and rewrite that day. We're all grown-ups right now. We are very capable of fixing whatever we don't like. So ideally, what she should do, and I told her, she should go to that day and imagine that her mom tells her, okay, you go play with the other kids, and I will come back and pick you up in a few hours. And she should imagine herself going inside and feeling thrilled. She's happy with other kids. She's making new friends. She's playing with the toys. They're reading some books over there, and she is just feeling amazing. This is ideally how what you should do. So you basically need to rewrite the story that started this pattern, abandonment pattern. It is though hard to pinpoint the first story, because our mind protects us from the painful events. So usually, and especially if you had a traumatic childhood, you wouldn't even remember. You wouldn't remember where did it all started. You wouldn't remember what was the event that started this kind of a huge snowball that became your life. So uh, ideally, you should write. I will tell you how I dealt with it. I mean, I obviously had, because my parents were emotional distant. I always was afraid when somebody was emotional distant with me, somebody who is close, obviously. So even with clients, I remember if I have a client and the client is not very open, I would be like getting a little even scared. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't. Yeah, of course, obviously, I understand that some clients, they need time to think. They need to kind of talk to their spouses. They need to do this and this and this. I didn't mind all that, but again, it would I would have this kind of anxiety a little bit, even because if at least when they speak to me, I know what they feel. So how did I dealt with that? I basically I started already working with energy and with NLP, and I was telling myself, I wrote my childhood, and I just wrote it to the point that my parents were not emotional distant with us. They were just it was just their lifestyle. So right now, when I remember my childhood, I don't remember parents that were focused on themselves. I remember parents that were self-sufficient, and we were self-sufficient, and everybody was just happy like that. And I knew for a fact that my parents obviously loved me, because first, I'm their first child, and second, they loved all of us. So I know they cared for us very much. I know that they really contributed to our childhood and our development. So I wrote, and I had no kind of hard feelings. Right now, when somebody's emotionally distant with me, I'm like, okay, fine. Like maybe they are working on their issues in their head. I have no problems. Right now, I could be with the man, or with some of my friends, and we could just sit like this, not talking, just being in our own kind of space, and it would not even hurt me a little bit. Like, so you need to find what was the issue and rewrite it. Again, for everybody, it's different for the most part. For somebody, it could be that the parent left them and didn't come back for a few hours. For somebody, it was I don't know. Maybe your father was always putting you to bed, and then one day he decided to leave your mom, or they just separated, and he never puts you. And he never was able to put you to bed, and this was like it started a trauma. Or maybe your parents were traveling a lot, or maybe again there was this emotional kind of betrayal when they chose others, and opinions of others could be different. So you need to find it and then rewrite the story. Rewrite the Rewrite the most recent memory. But again, don't rewrite nothing that was in when you were 15 years old. It was in childhood. It was when you're 4, 5, maybe 6. That's maximum. Another step that you need to do is you need to you need to pinpoint your triggers, and you need to learn how to deal with your triggers. So, for example, you're going on a date with the guy and you really like the guy and you would love to spend more time with him, but the evening is finishing and and he has to go home and you have to go home. You can't chain him to you, and you know that you guys will have to separate at one point. And you start getting worried. You have this little nagging feeling. You enjoy the time with him. You want it to last forever. Maybe you offer him to go for drinks after, maybe something else. But eventually, you will have to separate. I mean, if the guy has life, he will have to go somewhere. You need to know how you're going to deal with that, with this events, with these events that trigger your traumas, your feelings. For example, if this is I don't know, if the trigger is that the person has to leave you to be on their own for a little bit, just tell yourself that's fine. I also have life. I mean, if you have a fulfilling life, you wouldn't even notice a person missing. You can't be in each other's space. That's just not normal. And you will be like, okay, so he will do what he has to do. I will have what I have to do, and then we will meet in a couple of days. Ideally, if you have such an issue, you can even tell the person, when are we meeting next, so I can plan accordingly. And he'll be like, well, what about on Thursday? We'll go for dinner, something like that. So you need to learn how to deal with this events that cause these triggers. Again, for me, it was emotional distance. Right now I don't really care. It doesn't trigger me anyhow. But before I would say something like, it was mostly with men. I would say something like, if you have why don't you tell me what you feel, or if something is wrong, just tell me. And he's like, okay, yeah. And this is so funny because the men that have issues like this were energy of air. And I couldn't understand why they were distant, but they're just like this energy of air. They are non-attachable. So there was nothing wrong with me. It was just their style of communication. So that's crucial. When you know how to deal with your with your triggers, it's like you won the war almost. So learn. You will all have those triggers, all of them, or when you're talking on the phone and suddenly the guy's like, okay, I have to go, or he talks only for like 2 minutes, and you want to speak to him for like half an hour. It doesn't mean that he's not interested in you. It just means that, like me, I don't like to talk on the phone. Very rarely that I talk to anybody. And I only speak when I have something to say. I could not hang on the phone and just chit chat about nothing. I mean, unless it's my clients, obviously, then we're discussing something. But otherwise, no. So I don't like that. So somebody might think that that I'm distant. I'm not distant. I'm not a phone person. So if this is your trigger, explain yourself that listen, it's just her or his way of communication has nothing to do with me. Like that. All right. So what are other things that you should do? You should obviously watch your thoughts. If your thoughts always return you to your victim mentality, you need to kind of bounce yourself back. You need to tell something like, okay, I'm a grown-up person. I'm not 4 or 5-year-old child. I can cater to myself. I can I can live by myself, and I'm more precious to others when I'm self-sufficient. It has nothing to do really with money. It's mostly with your emotions and your ability to be happy and in pleasure by yourself, especially because we're ladies. And obviously, since we're ladies, we have to bring this into the masses, the pleasure, love, and for that, we need to feel it within ourselves. Now, ideally, also, what you should do, I told you to rewrite the first situation. It would be good if you rewrite the situations after, because the patterns are always repeating, and you probably have the same pattern again and again and again. For example, if you are afraid that the partner will leave you, you probably had the same pattern, not you, but somebody, the same pattern. So probably you had a happy relationship, and then at one point you were afraid to lose the person, and within like 2-3 months, the person is basically decide to break up or leave you or something like that. And it happens pretty much every time you are in love, something like that. So you would need to rewrite those situations as well. Those are just patterns, and you can't do nothing with them. You just need to change the patterns. Why does that happen? Is because your mind was so afraid to lose the person that your mind pushed that person away from you. Because it is much harder for your mind to keep you calm and quiet, like calm and peaceful, when you are constantly afraid that you will lose your partner. It's basically like this. So what's your thoughts? If you have thoughts like this, oh, maybe he doesn't like me, maybe he's not calling me because he doesn't like me, maybe he's not maybe he's not attentive because I'm not his priority, or anything like this, just change the thoughts. It's not true. It's not true. I've been loved by a man with whom I haven't spoke for weeks, and I remember this one guy. He's like, I really, really love you. I would marry you. And I say, like, we see each other once a month or so. You text me once in 2 weeks. And he's like, well, because I don't want to bother you. I don't want you to get tired of me and block me. So it was strange also. But I mean, it doesn't mean that the person doesn't like you. And you need to make sure that you watch your thoughts. Another thing is you need to be patient with yourself, patient, and develop self-love. Self-love is very important. You see, when you focus on yourself and you keep your energy within yourself, I mean, there's no time really to think about others. The more love you will give to yourself, the more energy you will keep in your aura, the stronger you become. The stronger, the more confident, the more grounded. And the stronger you become, the more you start realizing, I really don't need other people. I don't mind to have them, obviously. I mean, it's a different experience. It's everything is more beautiful with others, but you don't really need to have other people in your life. So this is important. And yeah, basically focus on yourself. I think that's it. I have more, but I'm already talking 45 minutes. Okay, let me sum it up, and then I will answer question. All right. So for the most part, I read an article, and in that article, it says that 95% have abandonment traumas. So if you think that I only met probably 2 or 3 people that didn't have abandonment traumas, only 2 or 3, and those people usually were brought up with parents that never separated from them, that were really loving, at least one of the parents, and they spent time with their parents until they were like 7, 8, like this. It doesn't happen usually because we're in our masculine society. Our parents usually work, both parents, father and mother. So pretty much, for the most part, everybody has this kind of issue. Now, how do you know that you have an abandonment issue? The biggest indicator is you could not hold a relationship. You don't have a relationship. You're afraid of relationship. You distance yourself from people, or when you are with somebody, you're always cautious. It's like you're always expecting something bad to happen. This is like the hugest indicator. When a person comes with me to me with this issue, I already know something is off. Something was off in the family. So also, you are anxious. You are depressed for no reason. You don't trust anybody, including yourself. You are either very emotional. You could not express your emotions, and you have issues attaching to people, attaching or disattaching. So it's either you all in or you don't let anybody in. The long-term impact is usually people are lonely. They become lonely even when they have a husband, whole bunch of kids, and they still feel very lonely. Why? Because they constantly are feeling, expecting and afraid that everybody will leave them. Like honestly, some people are afraid that the husband leave and the kids will not socialize with them, and it's like never-ending loop. No, you constantly afraid. You're afraid that your friends will start socialize with somebody else and will forget you. You're afraid that your parents will love more your siblings or something like that. It's a pattern that follows you your whole life. I even remember this woman. Um, she actually, I'm a Reiki master, as you know, and she was also studying with me in one of the groups. And I remember she said, I have issues. So she was afraid that her grandkids will love their other grandparents more than her. I mean, why would you care at that time? I have no clue. I thought it was so funny. But basically, you feel lonely always. This is like a chronic kind of impact. And then you notice the patterns. The patterns are the same again and again and again. All right. How do you deal with that? Usually, you are either people pleasing constantly, or you trying to pretend that you don't care, like you're disattaching yourself from everybody, but inside you do want to be loved. Um, and you constantly honor, like you constantly expecting something from people. Now, why does it usually happen? Is because when we're little, age 4 5, somehow we get some kind of event that will cause this trauma. So this could be this could different causes. For example, one of the parents split up, and you don't see one of the parents, or maybe you don't have parents, and they're moving you from one foster home to another. The child just got used to one foster parents, kind of, and then I don't think it happens very often, but it does. And the other one was emotional neglect. So you could have parents sitting here next to you, but still you feel like they are not emotionally available. You can also have not very often, but there could be, when a parent passed away, and could be also when there is emotional betrayal. So you do something, and the parent is not happy, takes another side. If you are a people's pleaser, this is what happened to you. You can argue with me all you want, but this is what happened to you. You're trying to please your parents so they would take your side at one point. Now, how to deal with that? So it's always at the age of 4 5, maybe 6. Not so if you think that your abandonment trauma started when you were 17 years old, and your boyfriend preferred your friend over you, no, it's not when it's happened. Probably you believe that your parents preferred your siblings over you, and that's just the repeating pattern again and again. Okay, how to deal with this? The first thing is you need to acknowledge that you have these feelings. You need to acknowledge that you have the trauma and you want to deal with it. You want to heal it. You must understand that you cannot be crippled all your life because something happened a long time ago. Like it's not working. I mean, it's not worth it really. So you need to accept it. Like me, I accepted it. I'm like, okay, it happened. It happened. I need to just to work with this so it wouldn't hurt me in the long run. The second one is you need to stop blaming anything, circumstances, parents, neighbors, society, whatever, country. Stop blaming anybody. Stop being a victim. Take the responsibility for your life. You are here now. You can deal with it. That's it. You were 4 5 years old. That was a different story. Right now, you are grown up, and you can deal with it. The third one is you need to start focusing on yourself. The more you focus on yourself, the more your energy is back into your aura. The stronger you become, the more confident, self-sufficient you become. I don't need to repeat this. I already told many times about that. And the more you focus on yourself, the more grounded you are in you, the less you need other people and their opinions, basically, and the more interesting you are to other people. Now, also, you need to not only focus on yourself, but you need to kind of develop self-love. You need to start feeling love towards yourself. You need to feel compassion towards yourself. You need to allow yourself to be. Another one is you need to have healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries for sure. Please watch my videos on healthy boundaries. If you don't have healthy boundaries, you have abandonment trauma. That's for sure, for sure. It's non-negotiable, honestly. Um, there, another one is you need to rewrite. Ideally, find that situation where you were abandoned, somewhat emotional, physically, or I'm not sure, and rewrite that story. Now, if it's hard for you, you need to write that story and also every pattern that was after that, basically. Ideally, that it should be that first story. If you remember, you can ask your parents also. I mean, for them, it probably would be funny. Like, for example, you can ask, when I went to school, I mean, why, okay, did they cry? Did they want to go to school? Something like that. I remember we had this boy, he never went to kindergarten. The first 3 days in school, he was crying and crying. He was calling his mom. Crazy. But me, as a person who went to kindergarten since a year and a half, it was part of my life already. Then you need to learn how to deal with your triggers. So you know what triggers you. You need to have a backup plan, and you need to watch your thoughts. It's very, very, very crucial. Don't allow yourself to spiral into the rabbit hole of your victimness. You are not, your thoughts are not you, and you can obviously focus on change them, and focus on yourself. All right, that's it about the abandonment trauma. If you have questions, ask. um, Also, I need to mention, you need to be patient with yourself. it, Abandonment traumas are not fixed fast. It takes time. Be patient with yourself, because you lived with particular pattern for so many years you didn't even realize, and now suddenly you're like, okay, that's it, now I'm a happy person, and I don't need anybody else. It would be hard. You already have a particular pattern, you live it. It would be hard to kind of to remove everybody from your life and just, okay, I can be by myself. No, you won't be. You won't. I had somebody, a client, when I was working finances, and she said, I don't want to get married. I want a child for myself. What do you think? She got a child, and she started having abandonment issues with the child. I mean, it's her child, and she manipulates the child, the little girl, into loving her, into sharing with her, into basically. But I know that the girl will grow up and will move herself as far as possible from her mom, because her mom is a huge manipulator. But at that time I was not strong enough, and I was not really yet practicing consultation, so I couldn't really. She was my client in finance. Okay. I wanted to answer a question. So the question was, last time, the question was, how do I know that I'm feminine and that I'm like a strong feminine woman, that I have strong feminine energy? I will tell you how you will know. You should have the same feeling like after you have orgasm. You should be super relaxed. Your whole body should be super relaxed. You should be almost like floating. Nothing bothers you. You're somewhat still in pleasure. You don't have thoughts. Like, there are thoughts, but they're just like moving past you. Like little clouds that are just moving. They are not. Um, they are not thoughts that are hanging on you and you need to solve. If you will remember that time, just a second. If you remember that time, you will understand what I'm talking about. It's like when you're still in pleasure, you realize that there is a reality, but you are not really fully in. You're just accepting everything that is around you. This is how a feminine woman should be 75% of the time. You should be in trust, in pleasure, completely relaxed. Your body should be almost soft, like no tension. Um, yeah, no tension at all. This is how you should feel throughout your day, 75% of the time. 25% of your time you're in masculine energy, so you should be a little alert, a little like tense, so to say, because you're in masculine energy. But 75% you have to be in feminine energy, and this is how you should feel. The question was from my dialogue. the last one on Thursday, 3 ways a man gets energy from a woman. And I said that the man, um, it's too fun. I said that the man with the woman that has a lot like who is feminine, who has a lot of energy, who can share a lot of pleasure. He doesn't need nothing else from her, only to be in her presence. So I got this question: how do I know that I have enough? Well, you will know. You will know because a man next to you will just want to be next to you. He doesn't need to hold your hand. He doesn't need to hug you. He doesn't want to have anything with you. He just likes your your company, your being next to you. That's how you'll know. But how do you know yourself? Is that's how you feel. You feel very relaxed. So masculine energy is front and right. I think you see the mirror, and feminine energy is back and left. So like yin and yang. Basically, masculine is more on the right and on the front, and feminine on the back and on the left. Now, when you are in feminine energy, you should be almost falling into your back. Like you feel like all your energy is there in the back. And if you do it right, the back of your legs should be softer. Um, you will feel it. Once you feel it, you will understand. So this is how you should be. You should be like this 75% of the time. You know that everything is good. You're trusting, you're desiring, you're trusting, you know that everything works out for you. You do need to have masculine energy though, otherwise you will be just floating like this, like a cloud. And nothing will move in your life. You do need to have masculine energy to move forward, to have desires, to kind of have some kind of passion um, for your standards, for your wishes. Okay, that's it. If you don't have questions, if you have questions, do ask me. For the ones that will be watching this live later, please do like, comment, send it to somebody who you know who needs help with this kind of issues. It is very possible to heal. I had clients that were able to heal from these traumas. I also was able. I mean, I never had such a huge issues, but I did emotional abandonment. I was expecting it, like I was almost waiting for it. But again, fortunately for me, I was able to heal it. But I took the responsibility for my life. I couldn't do it no more. I wanted to be self-sufficient, strong person. That's it. And I was able to do it, and you will be able to do it as well if you follow the steps that I listed. It's that easy. Now about the feminine part, if you do want to develop femininity, I mean, obviously watch my lives. I do give a lot of information, but I also have the course, An Ultimate Guide to Femininity. The link is under every video. There is another course about the money, but you probably know about this. Also, the link is in under every video. All right, that's it. I will see you on Tuesday. There will be a video that will come up, and I will see you on Thursday, the same time. We will speak about feminine, masculine, man. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, TikTok. And thank you, YouTube. Thank you, everybody who was here, who were here. If you have questions, do ask. I'll see you all on Thursday. Bye, everybody.